option one more time. He's got Jason Jarrett. He's across the 40. He's across the 50. The 40. He's going to score down to the 30, 20, 10. Touchdown, Milton, no flag.
Smart football player, and he's carrying the ball again into the center this time, following his fullback, and he's broken loose. He came out of nowhere. He's broken loose, and he runs the ball.
He pitches to Comfer. Comfer picks his way. Good hole there. He's still on his feet. He's down. He's got one man to beat. I don't know if Snyder can catch him. He cannot, and he's
on a little bootleg action. Going to throw back to Ross. Marr misses. Ross, oh, nice open field running. Ross is going to take it.
Hello, fellow sports fanatics, and welcome to CCN Central. We're coming to you today from Danville. We're here with the coaches, our area football coaches. We're going to have some comments from them to find out what their seasons are going to be like. Stick with us. We'll be back with coaches' information right after this.
Looking for a good quality used vehicle? We have 4x4, sport utilities, pickup trucks, vans, and sedans with options and low mileage and warranties where available. Whether your vehicle is new or used, keep it running in top performance with V&H Motors Parts and Service Departments. Our service department will be glad to help you with your warranty work as needed, and of course any general maintenance of your new and used vehicle. And if the need arises, use our body shop with over 30 years of bodywork experience. V&H Motors, family owned and operated since 1936, Route 45, west of Lewisburg.
Some people will find any excuse to use their tools on the weekend, but HGTV has the only reason you'll ever need it. We call it the Weekend Work Zone. So if you're looking for smart projects for your home and garden, break out the tools and watch the Weekend Work Zone. Weekend mornings beginning at 8 Eastern, only on HGTV.
Everyone in your hometown is talking about CCN News 8. Local news that happens every day, right in your own yard. CCN is there, covering the events that are shaping your community. You get the full story first. With Debbie Bortel, Chris O'Rourke, and Sam Hallman, news, weather, and sports has never been so local. Tune in weeknights at 5:30 and 10 p.m. and the following morning at 7 a.m. for CCN News 8, your only source for truly local news. CCN News 8, right here at home.
It was another exciting year for football in the CCN coverage area with the Milton Black Panthers leading the way. Max Schneider's troops compiled a record of 9 wins, 2 losses. Both of those losses coming at the hands of the Selinsgrove Seals. 28-13 in week 4 of the season at Milton, 34-7 in the playoffs on November 10th at Selinsgrove. Seniors Ty Ulrich, Tom Snyder, Eric Snyder, Will Perry, and Brady Snyder led the Black Panthers through the outstanding season and into the playoffs. Replacing the experience of the 12 players lost to graduation is a formidable task, but with 53 players suiting up for the 2001 season, and with experience gleaned by the underclassmen in roles against the varsity players from other schools, the Milton Black Panthers of Coach Max Schneider should have a banner year again in the upcoming season. The Black Panthers open their season this year at Shamokin. The Danville Ironmen, 4-6 in the 2000 season, look to rebound from a subpar Danville performance. The Ironmen lost speed back Kyle Sanders to a concussion just 5 games into the season and did not win a game after that. The Ironmen must find a replacement for Sanders, who had over 700 yards rushing before his injury. The silver lining in the injury cloud is that Coach Dave Zielinski was able to alternate several players for Sanders, thus gaining valuable experience for the 2001 season. If the Ironmen are to return to glory, they must find reliable speed in the backfield and a replacement for quarterback Nick Lemon, as well as for other graduated players, Scott Mertz, Scott Kozer, B.J. Bergenstock, Jeremy Fritz, Chris Root, Nevin Hackenberg, Tony Matarani, Colby Randler, Brett E. Enright, Matt Gerst, Mike Humphreys, Eric Shade, and Jess Anderson. Compounding Danville's problems is a first game date with a very good Sealand Grove Seals team. Also finishing at 4-6, the Lewisburg Green Dragons face a daunting task of trying to find a running attack. Coach Ira Keeperman's team won their last 3 games last year, largely because injured star Brandon Cram finally became healthy. The Green Dragon tailback, speedster David Ross, also was lost to injury much of last season. Lost to graduation as well are Eric Wetzel, Scott Pinchak, Adam Navarro, Matt Pierce, Phil Donegan, Joel Bettner, Kirk Fletcher, Jose Blanchard, Tom Deal, Josh Sadison, John Cassie, Josh Litzberger, A.J. Tomeno, Brian Durr, Brian Diggins, Jim Long, Rick Moore, Cody McKibben, and Jace Cresswell. The Green Dragons have a potent passer in Dustin Hoffman. The question for them is, can they find receivers for Hoffman and a solid running game to take the pressure off the passing offense? The Green Dragons open with the Montgomery Red Raiders. First-year head coach Tim Welliver of the Warrior Run Defenders led his team to a 2 wins, 8 losses record in the year 2000. The Defenders began very well with a victory at Mifflinburg, but would taste the bitter medicine of defeat until week 6, when they were able to win at home against Lewisburg, largely on the heroics of senior Brian Marr. Lacking a strong running game, the Defenders struggled much of the season. However, sophomore quarterback Glenn Smith gained valuable experience that will pay dividends during the 2001 season. In addition to the loss of Brian Marr, the Defenders must replace Kurt Workman, Bill Rauscher, Justin Hendricks, Matt Long, Jeremy Confer, Brad Webb, Sean Miller, Jared Forsman, Ryan Hoy, Jason Hummel, Ron Kepner, and Alex Yannicone. The Defenders open the season at home against the Wildcats of Mifflinburg, who will try to break a 3-year-long losing streak. Stay tuned after these messages, and we'll see what the coaches have to say about their prospects for the 2001 season.
Our biggest and toughest ATVs are bigger and tougher than ever this year. A new and improved torque converter design smooths out power delivery over a wider operating range, proving best what Kawasaki is known for, rugged dependability. More horses have been added for quicker acceleration, as has a carburetor heater for smooth operation when the weather gets cold and nasty. Kawasaki's Prairie ATVs, conceived, built, and now fine-tuned for enthusiasts just like you. Come visit us at Kurtz Kawasaki, 3 miles east of Allenwood.
Since 1955, Spangler Motors has provided the area with quality sales and service of Ford and Mercury vehicles. We are a family-owned dealership that has built a reputation for honesty and integrity. We offer the full line of Ford and Mercury, including cars, trucks, minivans, and sport utilities. Our philosophy is to deal fairly and honestly with you, our customer, and provide the best service possible for as long as you own your vehicle. By providing superior sales and service, we hope to remain your Ford and Mercury leader well into the next century. Spangler Motors, Route 405, Milton. For the freshest meats in all of Northumberland County, there's no other place but Mertz Meats. Our meat is processed here on site. Sausage is stuffed. Pork chops are smoked in our own smokehouse. Beef is cut, wrapped, and frozen in quarters and halves. Delicious meats start here first. Mertz Meats, Route 147 in Northumberland. The freshest meat in all of Northumberland County.
Once again, Milton Transportation strives in their continuing education by using the Pennsylvania Motor Truck Association Safety Laboratory, visiting area high schools, demonstrating the No Zone, and hosting the Pennsylvania North Central Safe Driving Competition. Just as education is a stepping stone in our lives, so is taking those first steps towards safety. To bring the Pennsylvania Transportation Safety Laboratory to your school or organization, please call 742-8774. Milton Transportation, sharing our knowledge with our youth, tomorrow's leaders.
Welcome back. I'm Carl Bauer here from CCN Central, and our guests today are the football coaches. Max Schneider from Milton, Ira Keeperman from Lewisburg, Tim Welliver from Warrior Run, Dave Solinsky from Danville. We're going to begin with Max Schneider. Max, I remember when I was coaching for Warrior Run a long time ago, watching a team that you played on with Montgomery. You had an outstanding team that year. You were the middle linebacker. And I believe you ended up something like 7-3. It was just a great, great season. Other than that, tell us what your experience is in coaching as well as in playing.
Yeah, I was playing football at Montgomery, like you just said. We were actually 7-2-1 that year. We were the West Branch champions in the B division that year. I went on and played football at Midland Lutheran College in Nebraska on a full scholarship. Out there, I became a defensive nose guard instead of playing linebacker because I kind of outgrew the linebacker spot, and was an all-conference player out there for 3 years. Graduated from out there in 1978, came back home and had the privilege of coaching with my high school coach, John Zalonis. Learned a lot of football from John. I was coaching there for Montgomery for about 11, 12 years. Became a head coach there 86, 87, and 87. We had a undefeated team. It was 11-0, lost in the district finals to a very good Canton football team. Moved on from there and coached several years at Mifflinburg High School. Went back to Milton High School, where I lived at the time. Became a junior high coach under Dave Six, a very good football coach. Back to Mifflinburg for several years, and came back to Milton 3 years ago. And this will be my 4th year as a varsity football coach at Milton.
Thank you. Ira, I don't remember watching you play, but I believe you're a New Jersey product.
No, I grew up on Long Island. I played high school football on Long Island in a town called Baldwin. My senior year, we were the league champs and lost in the playoff system that they had just started at that time. And then I went on to play in college at Allegheny and then at Hofstra University. And then after that, I started coaching in Marlborough, New Jersey, where my wife and I had settled approximately about 15 years ago. And I had coached there for about 10 years, one of which the years 1994, we were the Central New Jersey Group 4 state champions. Then in 1997, I believe it was, we moved to Lewisburg, where I started coaching with Jim Wetzel. And then after Jim Wetzel retired, I then took over as the head coach.
All right. As well as Max Schneider, I'm sure a lot of you fans out there remember watching Tim Welliver play for Warrior Run High School. Tim, I believe you also were a linebacker.
Yeah, I started linebacker for 3 years at Warrior Run High School, I believe from 1988 through 1990. We were defeated, I believe, my sophomore year. I think that might have been our last appearance, actually, in the district playoffs. We lost to a Troy team in the first round of the district playoffs. It was about 30 below, I believe, up there, and that was actually the last time Warrior Run has been in the district playoffs. And we went on and had fine seasons for those years, 3 consecutive winning seasons for Warrior Run. I went on then and I played football, college football at Lebanon Valley College under Coach Jim Monos would be his name. He's currently he's the offensive coordinator at Bloomsburg University right now. So we were a pass-happy offense then at Lebanon Valley. And if you've seen Bloomsburg, you know, they have some great offensive strategies that they'd employed, the successes that they've had in the last couple of years. So, and then my first coaching experience was at Northern Lebanon High School, and that was, I believe, in 1995. And ever since then, I've moved back to Warrior Run. I was an assistant at Warrior Run, the defensive coordinator for 5 years, I believe, and then last year was my first year as the head coach.
Okay. Dave Zielinski, I believe you must have played for Mount Carmel.
No, I played for Shamokin.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I played across the river, Shamokin, back in '78. I graduated, where I went on to the University of Lock Haven. I played 4 years up there, all-conference and little all-American. Got my first high school coaching job, coaching under Bob Chesney at Lourdes for a year before going to Shamokin and coaching under Jack Murdoch for a couple of years. And then I had the opportunity to become their head coach. I was there for 7. And then I got out of it for a year and then helped Carmi over here in Danville for a couple of years. And he went on after Shamokin's job. And then fortunately, 2 years ago, I got the head job in Danville.
It must have been very difficult for you to fall into that head coaching job after following what Carmen did here.
No, there's always, I think, any program you go into, you can always pick something out to improve yourself. And one of the things that I've picked out, naturally they had their undefeated seasons, they won their district titles then, but the one thing they didn't do was beat a team outside of District 4. So that's what we're trying to do.
Very interesting.
We want to move on.
We'll be back to talk about what the coaches have to say about their present programs right after these messages.
Ulrich on the option one more time. He's got Jason Jarrett. He's across the 40. He's across the 50. The 40. He's going to score down to the 30, 20, 10. Touchdown.
My family and I have bought the last 5 vehicles here at Hawkins. Being a comparison shopper, I always go where I get the best deal.
For generations, people keep coming back to Hawkins Chevrolet Oldsmobile. You'll get the best prices and excellent service after the sale on new Chevrolet Malibus, Cavalier Z24s, and Trailblazers, or Oldsmobile Alero and Intrigue. We've also got an excellent selection of super clean, pre-owned cars and trucks. Start a tradition. Come to Hawkins Chevrolet Oldsmobile. You'll come back again and again.
My name's Andy McDonald. I ride this useless wooden toy for a living. It's hard. I've been doing it for 13 years. I'm still lame. I do a trick called a 540. Took me a good 6 years to learn. There's a whole generation of skateboarders out there that are just as talented athletically as any basketball or football player. It takes somebody that's not going to be afraid to fall down a lot, because you definitely will fall down. You're not a failure until you refuse to get back up. Drugs are only going to hinder what I'm trying to do. That right there is my idea of getting high.
Mondays at 9, Animal Planet becomes a crime scene investigator. Each week, you'll uncover the most intriguing criminal cases involving animals. A gorilla helps the feds nail a smuggling ring. Insect analysis puts a killer behind bars. A San Francisco cat burglar really lives up to his name. And a dog with an uncanny nose sniffs out murder victims. It's a new series from the network that knows animals best. When a crime involves animals, you can be sure they'll get busted. Mondays at 9, only on Animal Planet.
Ever wonder how your favorite foods are really made? Go behind the scenes, discover the mysteries behind the munchies. From a new twist on pretzels, or the making of beer. It's a blast of beloved food, present and past. Unwrapped, the original series, Monday nights at 10:30 Eastern and Pacific, exclusively on Food Network.
We're back here with our football coaches, and once again, we're talking football. It's that time of the year. It's August, and it's time to get geared up. We're going to begin this time with Dave Zielinski, and I'd like to talk to Dave about your losses from the graduation. Who is it that you really are going to miss? Now, in your case, you're going to have to make up for a lot of speed. But when Kyle Sanders went down with the concussion, you did find somebody that really made you competitive once again.
Right, that's one thing. Fortunately, we did about the Kyle Sanders loss. We lost them after 5 games. So we've already gone over that hump. We replaced him with 4 sophomores last year who all split time. And, you know, he was a super athlete up in the first 5 games, did over 700 yards rushing. And it's hard. It was hard for us to rebound. We didn't win a game after we lost him. So that's something that we have to overcome. But as far as his talents, you know, we've been down that road. We're going beyond. Now, the quarterback, Nick Lemon, was a very fine passer. We don't have, right now, from what I see, and I hope things change, you know, things change as they go on. We don't have anybody with as strong as arm as he had. Maybe a little bit better foot movement, but not as strong as arm. So there's, you know, the kids, we have Pat Ross in there and Scott Perquette, who is a sophomore coming up. So we're going to be young at quarterback. We're going to be young at every position. I finished the season last year with 9 starting sophomores. So no matter who plays, some are going to have experience and some aren't. You know, just you got to put your kids out there with the best ability and go with it. two strong linemen we lost. One was Mike Humphreys, who was our center. He was 6'7", almost 400 pounds. So, you know, yeah, you're gonna miss not seeing that big space. He took up a lot of room, so he won't be there. And he went on to play up at where the heck did he go? It wasn't Kings he's playing for, and Matt Gerst is going on to Bloomsburg. Two good-sized people we lost on the inside. And other than that, you know, we lost, Scotty Mertz and Scotty Kozar, a couple of our receivers. But, you know, you always think that, and you have to think that way as being a head coach, that whoever's going to step in, they got to be better. You know, we were 4-6 last year. Who steps in, they have to be better, or we're going to be 4-6 again. So we're looking for our younger kids to step up and really do some exciting things for us this year. Some of those younger kids, you got Lenny Gibhart, running back. Sam Hummer's a running back. Forrest Smith would be in the line. And all these kids that I'm mentioning are incoming juniors. Boy, some of the names just leave me right now.
You hate to
John
lose,
Curry as a flanker. And
you hate to lose somebody like Kyle Sanders, but the best part was you were able to look at some other kids to try to replace
right,
them.
Yeah, and like I said, we looked at 3 or 4 other kids that they all split playing time. Everybody was getting carries. We probably, out of those 4 kids, I bet they all ended the season with over 300 yards rushing. So that's a good nucleus that we have coming back in the backfield. They're experienced, so time will tell how good they are.
Tim, at Warrior Run, I know you've had a little problem with running back the last couple of years because of not having the experience. You do have a very good passer back, and I think, in my mind, what you're going to have to do is try to find a good running attack. Is that how you perceive it?
Yeah, I believe we certainly need something to complement our passing game. I mean, we returned our quarterback, Glenn Smith, who he threw for 800 yards as a freshman and over 1,000 last year as a sophomore. So we're definitely, the focus of our offense is going to be around him. But you just can't become a pass-happy team and win games. They run. You're going to have to run the ball and play defense in order to win games, and we know that. So what we are hoping, though, is hopefully some of our passing game will be able to open up some more running lanes for us. If we can get linebackers out of our face and off the line of scrimmage, by throwing short passes, hitting them in their zones, we're hoping that'll open up our running game a little bit. As of now, we can't really sit and say we lost Jeremy Confer last year, who was our tailback. We have 2 boys that will be playing in the backfield for us. One is his brother, Jesse Confer, and he's more of a defensive-minded type of ball player, but we're hoping that he can become a little bit more offensive-minded. And another boy will be Brad Marone. He will also play in our backfield for us. So we're hoping the 2 of them combined will be able to replace Jeremy in the backfield. Our other big loss, by far, the best athlete on our football team, and we beat Lewisburg High School probably because of this boy, basically, and that's Brian Marr. He was an outstanding receiver for us, an outstanding defensive football player also, so that's our biggest graduation loss, I guess, by far. We have 2 receivers that are going to replace him offensively. One is more of a deep threat, one is a possession receiver. The possession receiver is Zach Schaefer. He has good hands, but he's not the deep threat. And he'll run more of our passing combinations where we're trying to stretch the field horizontally. And our deep threat, Brandon Criswell, he will be the man that's trying to stretch the field vertically for us. So we're hoping that those 2 will be capable of replacing Brian Marr. On our offensive line, I guess this is our biggest question coming into the year. We lost 3 seniors off our offensive line, Jared Forsman, Sean Miller, and Alex Yenicone. And we're going to replace those 3 seniors with 3 sophomores. And, of course, anytime you're putting sophomores on an offensive line, that's a drastic step for them. We're probably not going to see results from doing that in week 1 or week 2, but we're hoping by, the time we reach the second half of our season that we can begin to see some results from that. And then, of course, in the succeeding years, that only puts us in a position to succeed better by doing that.
You mentioned to me that Brian Marr he's also at Wilkes, I believe.
Yeah, he's going to play football at Wilkes University. The last time I talked to Coach Sheptock, he was kind of he likes Brian both offensively and defensively, and he didn't really know what he was going to do with him. So we have another boy that graduated from the program, Eric Stallmecker, who will be a starting inside linebacker for Wilkes University this year. So we've had pretty good success with Coach Sheptock, and our kids seem to like it there, and I have a good relationship with Coach Sheptock also.
Well, football fans will remember Eric Stallnecker, that's for sure. Because he was a good one at Warrior.
Yeah, just a workhorse, steady, honest, good hands. But he gave you everything he had, and you can't ask for more in a kid than that, really.
Besides Brian Marr, do you have any other of your players who are going on to play football at other schools?
No, that Jeremy Confer is going on to throw javelin at Lock Haven University, and he had talked to their football coaches about the opportunity to do both. He's not going to at the time. We have Luke Moore is on Lock Haven University's roster this year, and this will be his first year out for the team because he was redshirted last year. So they're going to try and put him at a defensive back. So we'll see how that works out.
All right, thank you very much. Ira, at Lewisburg, certainly you've had some ups and downs, and this year will be no exception, I'm sure. We talked before about how you have to replace kids all the time at this level of coaching. If you're a professional coach, you don't have that kind of worry. But at the high school level, you've got to constantly be changing things around. Who are the impact players that you've lost, and how are you going to replace them?
Well, the major impact player that we lost is Brandon Cram, who is was an all-around type of athlete who you could have played him anywhere. We played him as a receiver and running back, and also he was our linebacker. And he was injured most of last year, and when he became healthy, we won 3 games in a row at the end of the season, and it coincided with him becoming healthy. So our fortunes rose and declined with most football teams and with great players, and with us, Brandon Cram was ours. I don't think we have anybody who will be able to step up and play as well as Brandon did at the level he played as a junior, but we're hopeful some of the sophomores who are coming in, like a Tom Scott or somebody, may be able to eventually grow into those shoes. We also lost Eric Wetzel and Jose Blanchard from the receiving crew. I don't know how many people know, but last year we passed for more yards than we ran for. And part of that was also because our 2 running backs, Brandon Cram and David Ross, were injured. David Ross only ended up playing about 2 or 3 games. So we were forced to pass. And we were going to miss those 2 receivers. They're both kids who, if the ball was thrown somewhat near them, they would catch it. And we're going to have to fill those vacancies. But it appears that it's all going to be sophomores. We have a bunch of sophomores coming in who seem very skilled. And then maybe 1 or 2 seniors. The senior would be Kenny Patel. And Adam Wolf is a junior. But otherwise, there's a bunch of sophomores. There's Eric Erb. There's Mike Cromley. There's Eric Sutherland, there's to mention a few of them, but it's a wide open position on our team to see which sophomores are going to step up. But there's a bunch of skilled people there, so there's hope. Also, on the line, we're losing Josh Sadison, who is one of the leaders on the team, along with Brian Durr and Jim Long. Those were seniors who've been with us for 3 years, either defensive or offensive linemen, and we're going to miss their leadership. But the strength of our team, I think, this year will be our line, finally. I haven't seen a line, I think, as good as this since Jim Wetzel was the head coach. He had some real nice lines. And what we're going to do, we have at tackle, we have Greg Roskovinsky, who's going to be a junior. And Greg's, I think, going to be one of the better linemen to come through our system. And the other tackle will be David Knight on offense. And Bob Geiger and Randy Knoll will be our guards. Robert Geiger is a senior, and he's emerging to be one of the leaders on the line. And we're hopefully he runs with that. And then at center's an open position where it would be between Alex Peck and Matt Gemberling. On defense, also on our defensive line, we have some size this year. We have Chris Benfer, who's a mountain of a man. And if he ever gets any steamrolling under him, we'll be very happy. He is like Haystacks Calhoun out there. And he'll be at 1 defensive tackle. And Alan Klingler will be our other defensive tackle with Robert Geiger at defensive end. Our linebacking crew is wide open. All 3 of our linebackers were seniors. They've graduated. And of course, as I said, the biggest loss is Brandon Cram, also Adam Navarro. A bunch of those kids are actually going on to college, though, if I'll mention that. Is that Brandon Cram's going on to play at Harvard. David Ross and Adam Navarro going on to Wilkes. Eric Wetzel's going on to E-Town, but he's going to play baseball there and as he continues. And I guess the last person I left off was David Ross, who had an injury-plagued year I felt he had the potential to be one of the better backs in the league.
Not very big, but very fast.
Oh, he was. In fact, we had a call from Lockhaven when they were reviewing somebody else's game film, and he called up and he says, "Who is this kid number 1 here?" You know, and I said, "That's David Ross." He says, "Wow, how come I haven't heard of him?" I said, "Because he isn't playing." I said, he's, every time he got on the field, I think against Warrior Run, he had 2 carries for about 80 yards and then dislocated his shoulder. When he finally came back to us, and he was never healthy, unfortunately, but he was a real fine athlete.
He's a lot of fun to watch.
Yes, he was. Well. Yes, he was.
Max, you've lost tremendous numbers. I know last year was the year that Milton was going to do a lot of good things because there were many good athletes on that team. A lot of those athletes also participate in another sport you love, wrestling. And I know that there's going to be a problem trying to replace them on the wrestling team also. Talk to us specifically about football, about those kids you're going to have to try to replace.
Well, it's going to be very hard to replace a lot of those kids. But, of course, as a high school coach, we all know we got to replace those kids every year. Just yesterday, I had the depth chart out up on the wall, and, it brought tears to my eyes when I had to pull some names off that depth chart. Starting in my quarterback, Ty Ulrich, who's going on to play at Bloomsburg University. It's going to be the first time in a long time that you haven't heard of an Ulrich at quarterback at Milton. His brother was a 4-year starter, and, of course, Ty was a 2-year starter. Craig was the 4-year starter, and a very good family. They're going to miss those type of kids. And going out to their wide receiver, we had Will Perry out there last year, who was nobody heard of Will Perry. Will Perry was a great receiver for it. He's going on to play at Shippensburg University. Coming across the offensive line, we lost Zach Armstrong at guard. Zach's going on to play at Mansfield University. At center, we had Jeremy Lennick, one of the boys a couple years ago moved in from the Lewisburg School District, and he was an offensive center for us and also played nose guard for us. He's going on to play at Bloomsburg University. Great football player for us. And going to tight end, Brady Snyder. Brady Snyder is not going on to play football, but he's going to probably wrestle for 1 year at Bucknell. But he's going on to school. Brady's going to be a real hard kid to replace on the offensive side of the ball, but defensively he's a defensive end for us. Great defensive end for us. And in our backfield, we lost Tommy Snyder at fullback. Tommy is also not going to play football in college, but he is going to college. He's going to wrestle at North Carolina at Greensboro. Had a lot of offers to play football, but decided that wrestling was where he wanted to go. So that's what we lost on the offensive side of the ball. And then over on the defensive side of the ball, of course, Will played over there. We talked about him. We also lost Eric Snyder, who was a cornerback for us. And Eric was probably one of the smallest kids out there on the field, but he played man-to-man with the best receiver anybody had, and he's going on to Lycoming to wrestle. We're also going to be losing my thought here, but we're losing Sean Reese. He played with our strong safety. Sean was a 145-pound kid. A lot of coaches remember what number 27, when he hit you like he was a 195-pound kid. Sean's also going to Lycoming to wrestle. So basically that's our key losses. And these kind of kids, there were some other kids there that played for us, but these kids are the key positions that were starters for us, and it's going to be tough to replace those kids.
The best part is they have established something now at Milton. The kids on this year's team are going to want to try to duplicate.
Yes, and it shows in our numbers. We're going to suit up 53 kids to start the season off, which is probably the highest numbers since I've been there, and back to maybe the Dave Six area. That's probably getting close to what he ever had. But one of the good things about you lose these kids, and all of a sudden you look at your depth chart, and I still got a smile on my face when I look at my depth chart because of some of the younger kids last year. Winning games like we did, we got to look at a lot of our younger kids early in ball games against some varsity teams, and they got a lot of varsity experience because of what the seniors did last year. And coming back, I've got to replace a quarterback. I've got a real good dogfight going on in my quarterback spot. I've got Chase Phillips, and I also got Stuart Sumner. One's the junior and one's the senior. So a quarterback. We might not have the kid that can throw the ball as well as Ty, but we also have a great running back playing quarterback now. So our option game should be a good option game again, and I have a stable running backs back. I've got all those kids back. Jimmy Highstand's back. I've got Jason Jarrett back. I've got Ty Mitchell back. I've got Roger Ball back. I've got a sophomore coming up, Mark Erb, who's probably as good as them at this point in his career. So, you know, we feel very good about that. And up front, we had a great year in the weight room. Mike Mertz is my strength and conditioning coach, and Mike has done such tremendous things for my football program with my kids. They're all getting bigger and stronger and faster, and that's the key to football. We all know that as coaches. You know, I got Bobby Benyon coming back. Bobby Benyon's going to be a senior for us now, and I think a lot of these coaches kind of glad now he's finally a senior. But Bobby's at 6'4", 255 pounds now. And the other side of him is going to be Brandon Road at the other tackle, who is also 6'4", 265 pounds. So we've got some size coming back. And, you know, at center, the center is a big question for us, because you always have to have that exchange and have to have it right. And we have a kid in there, a couple kids, but Chris Snyder comes to mind right now. He's going to be a junior with a lot of experience. He's also a wrestler. He's not a very big kid as far as height. He's maybe like 5'9", 5'10", but he weighs 245 pounds, and he's very quick, and he's been snapping in the shootouts for us, and we don't have exchanges there, problems. And, you know, we're looking forward to a very good season, and that's how we're going to replace those kids that we have to replace.
Max, you're going to have to help me with the name. There was a boy that wrestled on your junior high wrestling team, a big kid, your heavyweight. I'm sure you have some plans for him.
His name's John Hartley. I'm trying to keep him a secret, Carl.
Well, he came from Warrior Run, I believe. He used to be at Warrior Run.
John is a big boy. John's like 6'1". I think we weighed him in the other day at 215, 220. If you need your tire changed in your car and you don't have a jack, call John. He'll lift it up. He's just a great athlete. We're not quite sure what we're going to do with him yet, because practice really hasn't started, but he's probably going to be an inside linebacker and possibly a fullback or a guard. We're not sure yet, but somewhere in there, John's going to get into that mix. And John's the type of kid. He's a farm boy, very strong, and John will do anything you ask him to do. And you know, don't put pressure on a sophomore, but I think he's going to have to step up and do something for us. And I think physically he can do that.
What I remember about him from junior high wrestling is how big and thick his neck and shoulders are. He's just a big, strong boy.
Yeah, and that was all natural until, you know, this past year he got with Coach Mertz, and Coach Mertz, he's been lifting with Coach Mertz, and he's put some big size on him. And, you know, can't say enough about Mike, you know, and the whole sports program down at Milton right now is going to benefit from the acquisition of Mike Mertz, and the kids just love him, and he's in there lifting with them, and 2 nights a week. You know, a lot of schools have to go out and pay. They bring people in, the big, stronger, faster clinics in, and we don't have to do that because we have a Mike Mertz now. Our administration took the step to better our programs, not just football, but all our athletic programs, and they stepped in the right direction when they put on a person like Mike Mertz with our strength and conditioning coach.
I think Tim Welliver will agree with me on this, that when Mike Mertz was at Warrior Run, he did great things for the athletic program there, too.
Oh, absolutely. I think, to me, Mike is a very good friend of mine, but Max probably mentioned his number one quality is he just has a good rapport with the kids. And the same thing goes in teaching, really, and he's in a teaching role as an athletic trainer, and the kids like him, and the kids will work for him. And I'm sure it's no different from, you know, kids at Milton High School as compared to Warrior Run High School. And we had, you know, some of our strongest teams ever at Warrior Run when he was our strength trainer. We had 1 year, 5 years ago, I can remember when every starter on our offensive line bench pressed 300 pounds. And that's rare for a high school team, and it's only going to lead to success. But the key is motivating those kids to get them, you know, to want to be in that weight room. And that's what Mike's very good at. Now, you know, that was a tremendous loss for Warrior Run School District, you know, the mistake made. And if I had anything, you know, not a decision that I, of course, had anything to do with, but it certainly is a loss. And, you know, you see the dividends from it. And sometimes, you know, decisions aren't always made, and so, you know, in the right context. A lot of financial decisions come into it, and a lot of politics, and I guess that's life, but sometimes that's sad, I guess.
Yes. We'll be back with some further comments from our coaches right after this. Stay with us.
All month long, Comcast Sportsnet is the hottest place to go before, during, and after the game. Every night at 6:30, don't miss First Union Sports Night for the latest sporting news. Then we've got games, from baseball action with the Phillies to soccer action with the Charge. And at 10, don't miss Toyota Sports Night with scores, highlights, and features on your favorite teams. Plus, don't miss Countdown the Kickoff with the latest news from Eagles training camp. Comcast Sportsnet, the hottest place to be all summer long.
Weeknights. Travel the globe and hang out with the locals. Discover the skill and beauty of our natural friends. Experience the wilder side of life. Watch Wild Discovery at its new time. Weeknights at 6 and 7. Only on the Discovery Channel. To catch a thief.
Experimental tracking device. We implant this in the appropriate subject.
It takes a thief.
We make it known he knows where the gold is, and I guarantee that our elusive computer whiz will show up.
To catch a killer.
Who would be willing to have that thing implanted in their jaw?
How long does it take for you guys to get these out of the building?
Alvin?
What up? Alvin Sanders is bait.
Bait.
When the FBI can find no trace, she can uncover the truth by unlocking the mind.
You can see what people are thinking.
Antonio Sabato Jr., Michael Ironside, Eric Roberts.
Show yourself.
Show yourself. A Sci-Fi Pictures original movie event. Mindstorm, September 22nd at 9, only on Sci-Fi.
We're here with our football coaches from our area teams, and we're going to talk to Max Schneider again about Milton. I'd like to look at the first opponent that you're going to have. Max, for you, that's Shamokin, and you're going to be at Shamokin. That's never fun to go there. Sorry, Dave, but let's talk about that for a minute. It's never fun to go into Shamokin. What do you look forward to from them?
Well, first, I'd like to say I don't like going to Shamokin. First time I went down there as a head coach, we fumbled the ball 11 times down there and got beat by them 35-0 my first year 3 years ago. We couldn't do anything right. All kept putting the ball on the ground. We out-statistic them all up and down the field, throwing the ball, running the ball, of course fumbling the ball, but we didn't put points on the board. Shamokin's the kind of program that I like opening up with them. For one thing, most times Shamokin teams are very physical. And to me, that prepares our kids for the season. We just had this conversation the other night with our staff and some people in the town is, you know, generally when Shamokin and Milton play, the winner of that game goes on and has a good season. And that's how we go into this game with Shamokin. I had a chance to move them around or even drop them off the schedule when I first started coaching at Milton. I said, absolutely not. I said, I will play Shamokin as long as I'm here because, one, I like the hard-nosedness of the Shamokin kids. That makes us prepare for the rest of the season. And it's been that way. It's been a tradition at Shamokin. And, of course, the new coach down there, Carmen's to be his second year. We were down to a shootout this year, and I'm anxious to take my football team down there and play in that football field because it's the nicest turf that I've probably ever seen in a high school field now. They just did it over. And I'm kind of anxious to just put my kids on that field and let them run. So, you know, football-wise, Shamokin plays a very tough schedule every year. Last year, they took their lumps because they play a good schedule. And a lot of those kids that played last year are back for them. They had some losses, some good kids they lost, but they also have a lot of young kids coming back that are very good. So I look for our opening game to set the tone for us for the whole season.
Hopefully take your lumps one year so that you can make up for it next year by having your young kids move through that and just get better because they have to survive.
Absolutely. And, you know, he did that last year without Shamokin. He had some young kids playing, and I did that the first year I was at Milton. I played a lot of young kids. We took our lumps, and, of course, last year we had a successful season, and hopefully it's going to happen for us again this year. And, you know, that's just going to be a heck of a ball game opening night. And there's no love lost between the two schools either. I mean, it's a rivalry, and it's become a good rivalry over the years. And Carmen and I are both competitors, and we're friends. And you know, we're kind of anxious to get it going.
Ira, you're going to open with Montgomery, and I know we don't know a whole lot about them because they're new coming into this league that we're into now. But they don't have their top gun, Rocky Hikas. He was an outstanding athlete, did very, very well in football. He was the heart and soul of their program for a number of years. Should be a competitive game.
Yeah, we can be thankful for little Mercy's there that he has gone on to the big college scene. What happens, we used to play Montgomery our first game of the season, and I always remember them as being an I formation, an I back type of offense, and a feisty team. And also, I know that Montgomery is attempting to come into the CSC also, so I think in a sense they're picking us up. I think they hope that this is helpful to them. For us, though, primarily what we're expecting to do, we're hopeful, is getting off with a win against this, because I have a very young team. I have a lot of sophomores, a lot of juniors who can be starting, and it's always good for younger kids to get, if you get that first win quickly, hopefully you have momentum to keep building on. The other thing is to get a quick start from my quarterback, Dustin Hoffman. Who he had over 1,000 yards passing last year, and we didn't really start passing until about the 4th game of the season. So we're going to, hopefully we're going to really be able to start opening up, let him get confidence. Hopefully we'll have a number of completions or some good completions, and be able to get offense going, and hopefully again getting a good confidence builder for our young kids. And if it doesn't happen, we just have to go on from there, because when you rely on younger football players, you tend to ride a roller coaster.
So critical in the beginning to do something well.
Yes.
Maybe you don't win, but at least you stay competitive in that first game or two, so that they can feel like maybe they can compete after all.
Yes. We're hopeful for a good start, though.
Tim, you're starting with Mifflinburg, and I know they have a running back there as just an outstanding athlete, Deacon Klein, who was a junior this year, I believe.
Yes.
And what are you going to do to combat him?
Well, I think, Deacon is a fine athlete, and but I think when you look at Mifflinburg, and we've seen them in passing camp several times this summer, and he by far is not the only athlete that they have on their team. And of course, they've gone now, I believe, 3 years it is, without a win, and we know, we're not kidding ourselves, that they'll come to our place as motivated as any football team can be, because with a new coaching staff, they've made quite a few changes down there at their coaches this year. And they seem to have a newfound enthusiasm amongst themselves, and they'll come there and lay everything on the line, and they're going to want to end that winless streak for themselves this season as quickly as possible. So, we'll absolutely have to play our best against Mifflinburg, and I'm sure I worry about Deacon Klein and think about his talents that he has, but by no means do I think that he is the only talented football player that they have on that team. We're also in a similar boat as Ira at Lewisburg. We're going to have a lot of young kids on our team, a lot of sophomores, a lot of juniors, just as Ira had mentioned. And I feel the same thing for us. It's pivotal to get that first win and to get going on a positive note, and then things can tend to steamroll from there. And so, that first week game for us is something that, we've been preparing for all summer. I mean, and that is one good thing about young kids. We've had 25 kids at every one of our workouts all summer, and we've had great numbers in the weight room. Because they're young kids. They haven't felt any frustration yet. They've had great success on the junior high level, and they want to work at it, and they want to be good. So, for us, the future only looks better, with what we have now with our younger kids in our junior high program, and we're just hoping we can take some of that momentum that we've gained there and bring it on to the varsity level.
As we just talked about with Ira, the confidence level certainly is an important aspect to consider, but also, if Mifflinburg can be held down the first couple of series, they have to be critical for you. If you can hold them down, those kids are going to start hanging their heads thinking, here goes another year where we're not going to win a game.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I think, any coach with any type of experience would know that, you need to put points on the board early against a team like that and make them think in their mind, because a high school kid's mind is different than how your and I's mind works. So we definitely want to do that, and that's why we've been working so much on our offense this summer, to try and put some points on the board, put numbers up there. So hopefully that'll work to our advantage in that first week game.
All right. Dave, probably one of the more difficult opening games is yours, because you're playing Selinsgrove year in, year out to start the season, and they're always a very good team. They have an outstanding program. They have a great running back named Justin Lawver, who is a sprint champion. What kinds of thoughts have you gone through the last couple of weeks thinking about that first game?
Well, I'll tell you what. We just put in a 12-man line with 3 linebackers. we're gonna stop them until the rest figure it out. But I'll tell you what, I agree with Coach. He opens up with Shamokin. When I was at Shamokin, I opened up with Milton. When Coach Six was there, hey, you got to look forward, to what's out there. Let's find out. Put our cards on the table and find out who we are. Last year we did that. We lost 35-0. We didn't belong on the same field with them. It probably should have been worse, except for a couple fumbles by Selinsgrove. This year we've got young kids coming back with experience. So we're looking forward to it. And our kids, our program isn't. Yeah, we were 4-6 last year, but when you jump back 2 years beyond that, they're coming off. They've been around the undefeated seasons and whatnot. So our attitude is great. The kids are looking forward to the opener. I know you asked me before we got on camera, why do they play the opener? Well, in '92, when the league was changed from an 11-game schedule down to a 10-game schedule, Danville and Selinsgrove always played the last game of the season. And normally back then, how everything was set up back then, you usually got a first game that was a non-league game that you could go out and schedule somebody, and usually every 2 years you just picked up somebody new. And when that was changed, the 11th game was moved up to the first game. So that's why Danville and Selinsgrove open up first every year.
You see that changing in the near future?
The
schedule as far as Selinsgrove, Danville playing maybe later in the year?
No, because of the league you're in, and with everybody else playing one another within the league, no, it's always going to be there.
Do you want it that way? Do you prefer it that way?
I don't have a problem with that. You got to play them first. You got to play them last. Do I get them first when maybe they're not on all cylinders? If I get them 8th or 9th, they got everything rolling. I might have some injuries. So, we play them when we play them. And that's, naturally, I like playing Milton 6th. But, yeah, you get used to where you play somebody, and you look forward to that date at that period of time,
And one thing it does is that your kids know right away, we've got to be ready if we're going to do anything against Selinsgrove, so we better be ready early.
Yeah, you got your 10-game schedule. Even in our last one, we play Southern. For the last how many years, Southern goes into the state playoffs. But yeah, it's something that you got to look forward to that date, and that's what you look forward to. So it's fun.
All right. There's one other thing I'd like to ask you coaches about, and that's something that has gotten national headlines the last few weeks: the heat and humidity, the toll it takes on your kids physically, and the dangers that you run into because of water problems. What kinds of things do you do to make sure that your kids are safe and secure on that football field, especially the practice field, especially early? Some of the kids are coming in there maybe 15, 20 pounds overweight. How do you make sure that they're safe and secure so that you don't have to make a telephone call to their parents telling them that their son is in big trouble? How do you do that? Tim, let's start with you.
I think, Carl, there are a variety of ways that you have to deal with that. Number one, and this is, you see it brought about in the media, is keep your players hydrated. I think that, to me, is the number one key. You really have to look at your practice schedules and keep those, keep the fluids in your players at all times. The second thing that I believe that schools have to, it's just absolutely necessary anymore, is to have a proper medical staff on hand at all practices, not just games. And I often see that, and we in high school have just finally corrected that problem for ourselves, but we were only concerned with games at one point, and now we have medical personnel on staff for practices, because your chance of, an incident happening in practice is probably just as great, if not greater, than it actually occurring in a game. And to me, those are two of the keys. I think players also need to regulate their diets. As far as, how they eat in between practices. And we stress to our kids, eat bananas. Let's avoid cramps at all costs. And, get rid of the soda. Kids will come in and they really have to watch what they drink, what they eat. And I believe the last thing is probably, and this is difficult for high school kids too, is the rest. In between practices, we tell your kids, get off your feet. As soon as we're done here, go home, get off your feet, rest as much as possible. And high school kids, sometimes that's difficult for them because they have other things on their agenda. But hopefully we can make it so that, they'll need to get off their feet after practice is over.
Dave, what are you doing at Danville to make sure that your kids are safe?
Well, you know, we teach a nomadic sport. We're out there. Everybody wants to be Joe Tough. We've heard it on the radios, the TVs, time and time again. You know, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to run those last 10 sprints. You know, the biggest thing is you need to have a great communication with your players. You can no longer look at your team and say, okay, this team can run 15 100s. You got to look at your team and say, okay, we can do it, but we're going to have 10% of these kids aren't going to make it. And you got to know who those kids are that have a hard time making it. You need good communication. You don't need anybody out there. Yes, you want your players to push it, but you want them also to be very smart about how far they can push it. You know, all things that 25 years ago when I was in high school, lightheaded, dry mouth, that was something, hey, you got 10 more sprints, get on the field. Today, it's like, we got a problem here. Right. Let's get these shoulder pads, this helmet's off, latest athlete down, and let's get them taken care of. So, you know, the whole looking at everything, you know, we teach a barbaric sport, but yet we have to be very sensitive about the needs of these players, and communication is the big thing. You know, you got to communicate. You got to see when they're going. Yeah, you might have 10 kids, or you might have your whole team finishing those sprints, but 10% might not make it to the second practice. So you got to really watch what's going on and talk to your players, communicate. And you know, I mean, we've all been there. You know when a player isn't on the field anymore, when he's, you know, he's gone, he's out there. So you got to, you know, over here you're yelling and screaming, putting this offense in, then you got to look into the eyes of your guys and say, wait a second, you know, trainer, get over here. And the good thing is now it seems everybody has good trainers. We have excellent trainers on the field. We use Health South. They've got backup. They're there all the time. And the other fortunate thing is I can turn around and I think I can yell as loud as I can yell and get a doctor from the Geisinger to come running over without making a phone call. So, you know, but keeping people hydrated, water, and really communicating with your players is a big thing.
Okay. Now, I know that Lewisburg for a long time was in the forefront of having good medical staff right there all the time.
Yes.
Aside from that, what do you do as a coach to make sure your kids are safe?
Well, I think Tim hit it right away when he was saying about, you know, diet and hydration. I mean, it's important that they have the water, so it's important that they're eating well. You know, they do have a little salt. Some people may, you know, be with these low-salt diets. You do need a little salt in your diet and stuff. And I think the other big factor really comes down to is common sense. It's just a matter of you know, being out there, looking at these people, seeing you generally know your individuals who are in bad shape to begin with. So obviously you're keeping an eye on them. But there are other people who may appear to be in good shape, and they're also really just really sucking at the wind, or you know, floundering out there. And you've got to really keep an eye out there. It's more a matter of common sense of anything else. You know, most of the people coach are teachers, and you know, they have that sense of the kids in the rapport that goes on, and you know when something's wrong. And as I said, Dave had mentioned it, that you can see when something's wrong. Plus, you have a trainer there if you have any doubt at all. So you know, immediately send someone over to the trainer, or bring the trainer, or we just again, I think it's huge common sense, and if you follow that, you know, for the most part, you're going to be okay.
To accentuate what you said about knowing the ones that you have to keep an eye on, for instance, the national headlines, Corey Stringer, he was a big fat guy.
Yes.
And everybody knew that they had to be a little bit careful with him, and he still had a problem. But you have the safety from Northwestern. He looked like Mr. Physique, and he still had a problem. And
you have basketball players who've died in practice. I mean, you
right.
Take a look at the people, and they may be, you know, they're this tremendous physical specimen, and still, you know, something happened that the athlete died, you know, either in practice or on the court. You know, it's a matter of common sense, and some things you just can't see, you can't predict, and I guess maybe you can solace yourself with the idea that perhaps this would have happened, not here, would have happened somewhere else, crossing the street or what. But our main concern comes back to being able to prevent what we can possibly prevent, sure. You know, and using that ability.
Now, Max, I know at Milton you have a a late night practice to start your season. Was that something you decided on because of the heat and humidity, or are you just trying to do something to get things started?
Well, we talked about this for quite a while, and it's been a thought of mine, and we just decided that we were going to do it just to do it. We know there's Midnight Madness basketball in the college level, so we're bringing Midnight Madness football to Milton this evening. Our first practice tonight will be at 12:01, which it'll be cool out there. But going back to all the things that the other coaches talked about is what happens is dehydration. We had several wrestlers a couple years back in college that was unfortunate and had some sudden deaths, and it all comes back to dehydration. You know, I can go back 25 years like Coach Z did over there, because him and I graduated from high school the same year in '78. We used to not get any water in practice. You come off the field, they hand you 5 salt tablets and a glass of water, and you drank the water and took the salt tablets. So we do that nowadays. The people would be, they'd be right down on us. But one of the things that we do at Milton, and we've done it since I've been there, is our practice times. I do not believe in practicing in the mid-afternoons when the heat's the hottest. Our practices this year are 7:30 in the morning till 9, and then we come back at 6 to 8 o'clock at night. So our kids are going to have a long time, a period of rest. They should be able to rehydrate themselves, and then we come back in the evenings when it's cooler, and we practice 2 hours in the evening versus the hour and a half in the morning. So we get our kids a lot of time to get themselves hydrated back. And we've done this for the 3 years I've been there. And then the other thing that we do at Milton is water breaks. My practice schedule in the morning and the evening practice has at least 2 and sometimes 3 water breaks in it. So we'll go 20 minutes hard, and all of a sudden we're at the water. But again, one of the other things is communication. We communicate to our kids in our first practice, our first meeting tonight will be, guys, we got to communicate with each other. If you need water, you guys know where the water's at, go get it. These kids are told that they don't even have to see a coach. If they need to go get water, go get yourself a drink of water, come back in, because the kids know their bodies. And a lot of kids will push themselves to the point that they're afraid to go get that water because they're told they can't have it only if it's a water break or when the coach says they can have it. We tell our kids, anytime that you feel that you need to take on water, go get it. And it's been successful for us in 3 years. Last year I was very pleased with our conditioning. I heard some things about nutrition and stuff and do this. We had kids last year drinking pickle juice all the time. This thing that was always out about, the dill pickle juice. Our kids are doing it. And we didn't have one cramp last year out on the field. And we played in some hot games. The first game of the season was hot. But again, we're very smart at what we're doing with the kids. We have an athletic trainer there at practice with us. And we're very smart with it and communicate with our kids. And, it's a shame things like this happen. But it comes back to what Coach Z said, barbaric sport that we teach. There's still some coaches out there that make the kids run the 20, 30, 100-yard sprints at the end of practice to see how hard they can push them. Well, I think those days are over. That's not the type of football that we need to be coaching in the high school level. We need to be smart, and we need to communicate, and we need to be professionals in our sport and know the limitations of kids. And again, we can't forget they are kids.
The change of philosophy has been really interesting to me. Dave, you mentioned about being a real tough guy. You have to show how tough you are by just going beyond what you really think you can do. And Max, you said about taking the salt tablets and the water, very little water during practices. Things have changed, and for the better for our kids and for the sport.
Yeah, I think it's better. I go back 25 years ago and think about when I played, and there was a lot of times that I wanted water. I mean, I needed water, and it just fortunate enough that it didn't happen to me that I had a heat stroke or something. Because I can remember some of them days out there in Montgomery and I played in Nebraska, and it was hot, and my college coach, I wouldn't let us have water, and there was times that I needed water, and fortunate enough that I didn't have that heat stroke or something. But nowadays the coaches are smarter, we're trained better. Not staying anything with the old thought of coaches, but we have changed over the last 25 years as coaches.
I would like to thank all 4 of you coaches for being here today, and I'm really getting excited about this upcoming football season. I wish all of you great success, and when you play each other, good luck. I hope things work out the way you want them to. If you don't win, certainly to play well as a team. I'd like to thank our our crew today, Scott McVicker, Chris O'Rourke, and Larry Zapataki. And I'd especially like you fans for keeping us on your screens. We will be playing a full schedule this year. You will see 10 or 11 different games and hopefully some playoff games as this season rolls along. For the entire crew and for the 4 coaches who have been here with us today, I'm Carl Bauer saying see you next time on CCN. So long, everybody.